Hello, and welcome back to Absurd Land. These haunting historical photos reveal hidden stories far darker and stranger than they first appear. Let's get started. (1926) Berlin. At first glance, this photo might seem heartwarming, but its story is anything but. That year, the city raised the dog tax significantly, and many people could no longer afford to keep their pets. Hoping to do the responsible thing, they brought their dogs to the municipal shelter. But the city was overwhelmed, and instead of finding homes, the dogs were later brutally beaten to death, simply because it was the cheapest way to deal with the overcrowding. In 1943, a Croatian Ustasha soldier strangled a Serbian girl, while another looked on with amusement inside the infamous Jasenovac concentration camp. In this notorious camp, around 100,000 people lost their lives. In 1945, a woman from Hiroshima shows the burns on her back, where the fabric of her kimono left a distinct pattern at the moment of the atomic explosion. The intense flash of heat from the bomb seared the darker areas of her clothing into her skin, leaving these haunting marks. In 1945, a Filipino survivor of the Manila Massacre shows the scar where a Japanese officer attempted to behead him. During the month-long massacre, tens of thousands of civilians were brutally killed by Imperial Japanese forces, leaving deep physical and psychological scars on the population. A French colonial soldier drags two Algerian men in chains, a stark reminder of Algeria's brutal colonial past and the oppression faced by its people under French rule. Accused Soviet spy laughs before being executed by a Finnish officer in Rukkajärvi, November 1942, after being accused of spying for the Soviet Union during World War II. During the war, such a charge could lead to a death sentence, especially in areas near the front where the security risk was high. 7-year-old Lina Medina and her 2-year-old son Gerardo, 1940, Lina Medina from Peru became the world's youngest confirmed mother at age 5. She had started menstruating at 3, was fully developed by 4, and at 5.5 was found to be 7 months pregnant. Doctors first suspected a tumor. In 1939, she gave birth via C-section to a healthy boy named Gerardo. The father was never identified. Her own father was arrested but released for lack of evidence. Lina never spoke about what happened, and Gerardo grew up believing Lina was his sister. A facial massager advertised in a 1971 Montgomery Ward catalog described as offering a gentle, penetrating massage. Mary Vincent photographed in 1978. 15-year-old Mary survived being assaulted, having her arms cut off with an axe by her attacker, being thrown down a 30-foot cliff and left for dead. She packed the stumps with mud and climbed back up, walked 3 miles naked in search of help. In 1913, Sarah Rector, a 10-year-old black girl, received a land allotment of 160 acres in Oklahoma. The best farming land was reserved for whites, leaving her with a barren plot. Oil was discovered, and she became one of the country's first black millionaires. In 1973, a bank in Stockholm, Sweden, was the site of a hostage-taking. The 131-hour ordeal had a strange effect on the hostages. They grew so fond of their captors that after their release, they even organized a fund to help cover the robbers' legal defense costs. This incident later gave rise to the term Stockholm Syndrome, describing the psychological phenomenon where hostages develop sympathy for their captors. The Federal Reserve Bank in New York in 1959, the institution that holds the largest reserve of gold in the world and serves as a central pillar of the U.S. financial system. There are 66 years between these two photos. Over that time, humanity's flight advanced from fragile early airplanes to walking on the moon, capturing the extraordinary leap from early aviation to space exploration. A British soldier scolding a German civilian for laughing at a screening of concentration camp conditions. She was ordered to re-watch the film. In 1917, a specially designed steel spring wheel was patented in Germany during World War I, created to address a severe shortage of rubber. The innovative design allowed vehicles to continue moving even without traditional rubber tires, showcasing the ingenuity born from wartime necessity. Buffalo bones waiting for railway transport in Alberta, Canada. At the time of European settlement, nearly 60 million buffalo roamed the North American continent, with herds so vast they could number between 100,000 and 200,000 animals. By 1900, fewer than 1,000 remained. Today, however, their numbers have recovered to around 120,000. Charles Manson's first booking photo, taken after the Tate LaBianca murders in 1969, when his cult followers carried out one of the most infamous killing sprees in American history. Anne Frank's father, Otto, revisits the attic entrance where he and his family hid for 2 years before their betrayal. Amsterdam, 1960. A photo of Leatherman, 1885, a mysterious but gentle vagabond who walked the same 365-mile route around Connecticut and New York, dressed in all leather for decades. On the left is David Reimer, on the right is Brenda Reimer. They're the same person. As a child, he was a victim of a botched circumcision, so on the advice of one doctor, the family decided to have him castrated and raise him as a girl. At age 15, he began living as a boy again, 1980. A member of the Harlem Hellfighters, 369th Infantry Regiment, poses for the camera while holding a puppy he saved during World War I, 1918. The Arctic Ocean photographed in the same place, 107 years ago versus today, 1918. Ice that once stretched endlessly has dramatically melted, revealing open water. Portrait of Titanic passenger and millionaire Benjamin Guggenheim, 1910. Refusing to enter a lifeboat, he reportedly asked a steward to inform his family that I played the game straight to the end and that no women was left on board this ship because Ben Guggenheim was a coward. Pat Tillman, former NFL player and soldier who was against expanding the war on terror to Iraq, he was killed in a friendly fire incident in 2004 in Afghanistan. The youngest American KIA in the Vietnam War was Dan Bullock. He was only 14 years old when he enlisted in the USMC in September of 1968 after falsifying his BC. Dan lost his life when the bunker he was in took a direct hit from an RPG in June of 1969. He was just 15 years old. Real estate developer Fred Trump and his son Donald, New York City, 1970. The only known photograph of an African-American Union soldier with his family, circa 1864. A rare photograph of a Jewish woman from the B'nai Korath tribe in what is now Saudi Arabia, wearing traditional vestment and burqa, from 1929. Marzieh Ibrahimi lost one of her eyes in acid attack in Iran back in 2014. However, they never broke her spirit to lead Iranian protests and stand up to the regime. May 8, 1945. Massacres. 45,000 killed in one day. Peaceful Algerians protesting for freedom after World War II were met with brutal French gunfire, aerial bombings, and mass arrests. This massacre destroyed any hope for peace and set the stage for the Algerian Liberation War in 1954. 19-year-old Kurt Cobain, detained for graffiti reading "God is Gay," a rare photo from his teenage years, capturing one of his first brushes with the law. 1961, Prince Philip of Edinburgh, and, not incidentally, husband of Queen Elizabeth II, on a hunting trip in India with a tiger he shot. What's particularly striking is that Philip was one of the founders of WWF, the world's largest private conservation organization. In 1963, at the Pasadena Art Museum, Marcel Duchamp played an unusual game of chess against 20-year-old Eve Babbitt, who sat nude across from him. Babbitt staged this bold performance to draw attention after previously being snubbed by the museum's curator. The scene is both provocative and symbolic. Duchamp, already retired, considered chess his true art, while Babbitt made her entry into the free-spirited, boundary-pushing art world of the 1960s. Audrey Munson, America's first supermodel, attempts suicide at 30. She survives but spends the rest of her life in an asylum. She died in 1996 at the age of 104, May 1922. A Japanese-American family returns home from an internment camp to find their home vandalized with racial slurs, 1945. German soldier returns home from war, only to find his house in ruin and his family perished, Frankfurt, 1946. In just 4 years, Abraham Lincoln seemingly aged a decade, likely due to the immense stress and pressure of leading the United States through the Civil War, facing national division, personal loss, and the weight of historic decisions. Image showing Irish-Cuban revolutionary leader Che Guevara 10 years apart. Hugh Thompson, the hero, who stopped a massacre committed by U.S. troops in the Vietnamese village of My Lai by landing his helicopter in the line of fire, 1968.
Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.